All right, welcome back to
Hello.
One More Tune again. Double record this week, so we can't exactly chat about what we've been doing this weekend, but there are a million other things to talk about. The thing we started talking about when you first got here is how much we hate replying to our messages. No, we don't mean that.
Yeah, that's got to go down well, isn't it? Yeah,
it is a very lucky position to be in to get loads of messages asking about gigs. I'm just so terrible.
Yeah.
In my head, I do a gig, and that's my job, and I've done my job. And then I have to reply to people, and I'm like, oh my God.
I wonder how many gigs and how much work that we've lost over the years. Because
when I was younger, I was terrible. I'd set aside admin days in the week now to make sure I'm actually trying to be as prompt as possible. And I know I'm still crap, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. I always see a little message.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, and I still haven't replied to you, send me another message. Just flood my inbox. It will get sent back to. But it is a silly, silly problem. And one of the other things I was thinking about was the sort of checklist that you have to do for some gigs compared to other gigs. Yeah. And I was thinking about because on the last episode I didn't talk about the Portugal wedding.
That's right.
So
let's go into the Portugal wedding.
Let's have that as a nice jumping off point.
Let's do it.
I remember I've done I think 5 European weddings now.
Oh, not to brag,
Only 5. That's what I mean. So like compared to weddings in the UK, I've done probably a couple hundred. European weddings, obviously. You can't exactly throw all your stuff in your car with all of your spares and go to the gig knowing that even if a cable breaks or something, that you have spares. I think I've always kind of over-prepared gig-wise. I think that's probably come from a period of time when you started where you definitely didn't prepare well enough.
Oh, yeah.
And I had gigs when I was a kid where my speakers would break like mid-gig and stuff. And you're just like...
speakers?
Yeah. So me and Ash,
our
first duo when we were in, our speakers used to break.
Yeah.
And it was genuinely a thing about whether the speakers would turn on or not when we got to a venue. So we were like 16 at the time. So it is like rough and ready and meant to... That's how it goes. You kids
stress me out.
I'm 29, turning 30, this is very early days.
Yeah.
But like you'd have some gigs where you turn up and like the speaker might not work. So me and Ash did a gig at Slinky's in West Kirby in May 2011. Let's say 2011. And we didn't have our speakers didn't work, so we just did the gig a cappella, sat in the corner of the place, just like shouting the songs.
I couldn't do it.
And I still went on to turn professional after that. But yeah, based on all of those previous experiences, and then there's probably versions of it where it's like you're a little bit older and, I don't know, a cable breaks halfway
when
through.
You were younger, do you think when you were younger that you got a bit more, like the venues were a bit more lenient?
I think they probably go, oh, stupid kids.
Because... Adam, I'm thinking, how are you getting away with doing gigs where your speakers are like breaking? And now, if I have so much of a crackly cable, there's a bar manager that's like, "Come on, mate, this isn't on." You know what I mean? Like, can we swap the cable? I've had that, yeah. Because they just expect
flow.
The thing is, because of the prices we charge as well now, I guess, which has gone up.
Yeah, I mean that's why you invest in good equipment. But when things still happen, things still break.
Yeah, 100%. But I always, or like you say, I always have spares now. I have
triple.
You've seen the back of my car. It's literally like a music shop in the back of my car now.
Connor has in the boot of his car a full Glastonbury stage lighting rig.
100%.
That I guess gets used maybe once, twice a year.
No.
When was the last time you used the moving heads?
2 weeks ago, in the row, in a private party.
In the row? You probably lighted up all of West Kirby with that.
Yeah. It was going out the balcony.
I saw the Northern Lights last weekend. Yeah. It was just Connor gigging at the row.
Yeah, 100%. No, it was a great gig. But the thing is I will say this, and another helpful tip on the podcast. Yeah, because this
podcast has turned into such an obvious musician's helpline, giving out really useful tips.
Well, there's occasional gems. There's there's a diamond in the rough.
It's the don't make the mistakes that we make thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing that I have learned, if you are an aspiring musician and you are looking for ways to get the edge into private parties, is lighting rigs, because when I first bought those lights, I spent almost $1,000 on lighting stuff. Although if you HMRC, it was like 10. No, but like I spent a load of money on a lighting rig, and at first, when you get the buyer's remorse, like, and I set it up in the living room, and I was like, this is so stupid. And then like I went and I did my first gig, and the person who booked me, the first thing they came over and said was, "Oh my God, wow!"
I can't see anymore.
Yeah, they were like,
"You've blinded my nana."
Have you got free sunglasses? No, they were like, no, the first thing they came over and said was like, this is a really professional rig. And the owner of the venue actually said, have you got any cards? To which I said no.
Because you've got more professional lights than you have.
Yeah, because I can't afford the 30 quid Vistaprint fee for cards, but I can afford, But I spent all my money on lights. But no, because they literally...
Does it help distract from the level of performance?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. If you ever feel like...
if you're having a stinker, but you've got your strobe going, then no one knows it's a bad gig.
I'm not sounding great. Hit the smoke machine. Do you know what I mean? Like... Honestly, but no, it works. Like what I will say is like when you're doing the private parties, I think if you're playing in a pub, the emphasis is definitely on the music, and it always is. But I think if you're playing private parties, it's the show as a whole. If you can dress
it, make it seem more atmospheric.
Yeah, it's like they're booking a show, like and that includes your PA. Mm-hmm. Make sure you got a good PA. Make sure you got a good lighting rig. And make sure you sound good as well.
You could also do the way that I've done it recently and get something that looks really cheap and crap and plastic until you turn it on, and then it looks all right.
Yeah.
They're all right.
In the dark, they look great. They look fantastic, In
the light, they look... I don't know, how would you describe it? 2 wet pieces of tissue or something?
It's like when you see these TikTokers like, we bought these lights off Temu for like...
Oh, yeah. They are the worst Temu lights ever, but I love my silly party lights.
They work. They do the job. And in the dark, I will say they look very impressive.
They're actually all right, aren't
they? Yeah, they are really cool.
You can also buy a speaker that is twice the size that you need it to be, and only one of them...
That's a certified sonic weapon, that thing. I was stood in front of you playing in Claremont, obviously, and I was doing some filming for you, and then it was the first time in ages that, like, because I tried to look after me hearing as a musician. Yeah. It was the first time in ages my right ear I couldn't hear any. It was muffled, and I was like, this is weird. I've never had this before at Claremont. And then obviously it occurred to me that this new speaker that you've bought is like twice the size of your old speakers. Yeah, it made a massive difference to the sound.
I want to be the loudest single person at any one point. Probably stems back from childhood and not being able to fight my 2 older sisters for attention at the dinner table. Right. I now just buy really loud amplification equipment to play as dominatingly as possible.
Yeah.
I've for years since me and Ash played with those broken speakers, the first speaker we got properly was still one of those Yamahas. That was from 10 years ago, probably.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And they've done the DBR10s. They've done me a solid forever.
So you've always had the Yamaha?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because before I had the Mackie speakers, so I use Mackie Thumps now, as you know. Mm-hmm. Before I had Mackies, I had these Pro L speakers, which were like, they were tiny, they were like this big.
Just a tweeter, just a tiny tweeter.
Literally, like no low end in them. But at the time, I wasn't using a stomp, I wasn't using a loop state, I wasn't using any, and it was just acoustic. So it did the job. It was just mic and guitar. Do you remember when musicians actually were just a mic and a guitar?
You mean crooners?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Just wailing away.
Yeah, like back, when in the olden days, But yeah, I had these little speakers, and they were cool, and they had like a little mixer in the back, that came out.
But like, if there's a mixer in the back, that means the size of the speaker is actually probably half the size of.
They would not fill even a quarter of the.
It would be if you maxed it in this room.
Yeah,
and this room's probably 3 meters by 6-7 meters or something like that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. Yeah. If you maxed it, you'd still be like, oh, that's
no chance. If you had people in here, you wouldn't even you know what I mean? Like
we were using them to gig with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had those DBR10s. I got a second one when I started doing gigging properly.
Yeah.
And those have been the two that I put up for everything.
Yeah.
And DBR10s aren't massive. They're not like necessarily super bassy, in the immortal words of Nicki Minaj. But they've been fine for everything really that I've needed them, and they haven't really let me down.
Okay.
They've got really good compression if you're pushing it way too hard. They don't They don't die on themselves.
Yeah. That's the number one thing if you're using a stomp pedal. With regards to speakers, you have to look out for. A lot of people's systems and venue systems I've went through. Not necessarily if it's a big installed system with subs, but if it's just the standard satellite speakers, is that as soon as you bring the stomp in, you hear the limiter going like a hard limiter, and a lot of people's, I specifically got the Mackies because they don't really do that unless you like absolutely they have a really good dynamic range. They've got like really good low end in them. That's why they're called Mackie Thump, because the obviously it's
just the low end boom.
The low end is so good in them.
This is very niche, like. Maybe slightly alienating tech chat, but to give it a bit more context. I got one smaller Yamaha powered, rechargeable battery powered speaker that's actually reassuringly heavy, like really fucking heavy for the size of the thing.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to make my setup as adaptable to any situation. So like if I'm in a tight space but it needs to be really loud.
Okay.
Or like a long, narrow space where I can't put two speakers up, I can put the big one up.
Yep.
And that can boom. Yep. If I'm in a garden party where it doesn't need to be super loud and I want the easiest setup possible, my pedals are on a rechargeable battery, so no, I don't need any power. If I use that rechargeable speaker, I don't need any power. I can go and stand in the middle of a field and do a gig.
Yeah.
Not super loud, obviously, because it's only like that little speaker, but I have the ability to just go off into a field and not use a cube because the cubes are.
I'm looking at Bose.
Don't get a cube.
Bose do.
You love spending money. You just bought a Nintendo Switch that isn't even out yet.
But Bose have got this battery powered one.
Yeah, I've seen them. I think I've played through one and I didn't love it.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, interesting.
I think they're going to be really, really good for playing playlists out of or DJing out of, but live music wise, I didn't like the kind of natural balance.
I've not seen anyone use a stomp with one, and that's what worries me.
I've used a stomp with that,
and it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Actually, sounds quite. It's not super low endy, but it's nice and round.
Okay. So no hard limit compression.
Nope. Okay. Obviously, you are limited volume wise because there's a smaller thing. It's battery powered. Obviously. It's rechargeable batteries. Yeah. Okay. I think if you plug it in the mains, you'd probably get maybe an extra few dB if you absolutely pushed it.
I'm looking for potentially to get one in the next month or two, a battery, but because I'm playing this boat, as you know. So, which...
this is what happens when you do reply to messages. You get some interesting gig requests. So we both got this message, but you can do it, I can't do it, I think.
That's right.
Something like that.
Well, I was gonna, for a little bit, have us
we were trying to do it together, yeah.
But yeah, as I say, so I'm doing essentially this party boat, and I've got no idea what to expect from it other than it's a party boat.
One thing I will say is that the concept of party boat changes very dramatically based on where the party boat is being hosted. So
can you go where it is?
Saint-Tropez or Monaco or...
Yeah.
This one's in the UK. So
it is in the UK.
It's not guaranteed to
when
be...
When they say party boat, it could be like a barge. I don't know,
But to be fair, as much as that isn't necessarily the glamorous Sunseeker, if it was to be a party barge... that could still be really funny.
It could be. My main concern is, depending on the scale of said boat, how's the power going to work? Like,
you need a portable speaker.
Exactly.
Do you want to borrow my battery powered
potentially, but I might consider...
It's going to cost you 500 quid to rent.
Right, okay. Well, in that case, I'll buy the Bose, it's fine. As I say, I don't know, but I definitely am finding more and more for these specialist gigs.
Yeah,
where I need, like, I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere and there's no power outlet. And I get more and more now in requests, people saying, like, do you need power? Like, you know, especially if it's in these, like, marquees and stuff. And it's like, sometimes they're like, look, we don't really have power. I played a wedding not too long ago where I didn't have any power. And basically...
Wait, what?
Yeah. So basically it was in a big field on the side of a hill. And it was like
yeah, but normally people have generators down there.
Yeah, they did, but the problem was they didn't have enough to give me because basically it was a big marquee. The gen was at the other side,
and running the kitchen and the lights and stuff.
They had everything going over that side. Even the food that they had over my end was one of these like those hog roast things. So it was like none of it was powered. It was all whatever.
Coals or whatever.
Yeah. So I suppose it was great, you know, it was great, but it wasn't great because they were like, we want you to set up over there. Okay, where's the power outlet? Over there, like, you know, and it was like a good 300 feet or something, like the other end of the thing. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? No idea what I'm going to do. Luckily, I shouldn't say this makes me sound really amateur and terrible, but I got the job done and it was great. I have this, like this JBL party speaker that like I bought like literally for playing music. It's not professional at all.
It's like a little party corner of the room karaoke.
Yes, but what it does have is 1/4 inch input for a mic to sing karaoke. I basically took my whole mixer, which I can run off battery. I took my whole like small mixer that I had.
How did you power the mixer?
Because I used a power bank and used a USB. So I literally did that.
This is why I was looking for simple adaptability in my gigs.
I'm not saying
because
it was
that
ideal.
is a fucking terrible
if the power bank ran out mid-gig, it would have just went boom.
Okay, so your phone on a power bank, maybe get full charge or 2 full charge, depending on what power bank it is. Running a mixer?
No, this is a good power bank. It was designed for me MacBook, so it's got 2 full charges for a MacBook.
Okay,
so like,
I still just wouldn't try.
It was dodgy, but
running a wedding gig off a power bank.
No, I know. That's why I said I don't want to say this, because like they had no idea. Luckily, it went okay. But if they would have knew that, I was like,
or if there was any other person who understood music tech at all,
maybe,
and you were just like plugging your mixer into a power bank and like plugging the whole mixer through one channel in this random JBL speaker.
It was not good. So anyway, but the thing is actually even
this is recent.
Yeah, like about maybe 2 months ago or something. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, this is why I've come to realise that I need to get a battery-powered speaker, which I do. But yeah, as I say, so
on this week's episode of How Can Connor Incriminate Himself?
But it's not incriminate because I got message the next day like, you were unbelievable, like everyone loved it. So it's like, so it went down well.
Eco-friendly.
You know, I'm sure when you go and watch a major concert, there's probably a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's just taped together or something, and you just have no idea.
It's just the line of playing a wedding using a power bank.
Yeah, like I just want to point
like DJing
out,
on your phone.
I just want to point out to anyone in the future that may book me that's not common practice. I don't normally show up with my power bank to weddings, like, hey. But it was just a one-off. It's the only time I've ever had to do it. And it was also because I now stipulate in when I'm getting booked that I need power. Like, I never used to stipulate that up until a couple of months ago because I kind of thought it was obvious when you've got a big PA rig and stuff that it, you know, obviously... The only annoying thing about that situation was as well is I only had one speaker that I could run, which was the JBL, which was quite loud, but it wasn't very loud, and I couldn't run any of my lights or anything like that, obviously. Luckily, I had spare rechargeable batteries for the stomp and things, so that was all fine. And that was the rig. It was absolutely insane, and it's not like I could have just popped back and got something because it was in the middle of Yorkshire, like
in a field, miles away,
exactly.
And that ties quite nicely back to the first thing that started us down the path of having this conversation was saying about the Portugal wedding.
Right.
Because we were saying about how when you go and do these European gigs that you can't run home and pick up the adapter that you've forgotten or whatever. 100%. And again, I've done 5. That's a few. That's not many. I wouldn't say that I'm like mega experienced in traveling to do wedding gigs and stuff, but I've actually not had any major issues. There's been some communication issues, not like a language barrier thing, but like expectation, or not with the bride and groom, with like anyone who's setting up the equipment or running the event.
Yeah.
I had one on the Amalfi Coast last year that was very nice, in a place called Torre Nomana. Beautiful venue, like big kind of rock castle falling out of a cliff on the Amalfi Coast. Beautiful place.
Nice.
The setup was interesting. So I turn up thinking I'm playing at about 6-7 o'clock. They're having a meal.
Okay.
And in the room where the meal's being set up, there's a string quartet.
Why not?
So I go and chat to them. I'm like, hey guys, are you playing now? And I was like, yeah, we're playing for the next 2.5 hours. I was like, okay, cool. I'll go chat to, see if I can find the bride and groom or whatever. Just chatting to them and like, yeah, you're playing the first dance later on upstairs. I was like, right, okay. So upstairs on the top of this thing is a thin metal spiral staircase to get to the top. And the guys who've come to set the speakers up are also the DJs for later on. So I'm basically using the DJ speakers earlier for my setup because I can't fly with my equipment. I can't fly with all my speakers and stuff. So I've got to get them to hire it out. They figured it out by the DJs said that they'd also let me use that stuff.
Okay.
But the DJs were set up in a different place. So the DJs were set up somewhere in the afternoon.
Right.
Then they had the meal with the string quartet in the dining room, and then on the top was where I was meant to be. Okay. So I these 2 Italian lads, I was like having to tell them that they'd set their stuff up in the wrong place because I was meant to be using it in upstairs. So already I'm slightly on the back foot because I'm like, I've got to convince these guys to help me move their stuff that I'm already borrowing anyways.
Yeah.
And if it was me on the other side, I'd be like, this guy.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Could you imagine if you were on the other side and you're like, this guy's coming over being like, now we need to move all this up this rickety staircase to the top of there.
You probably look like a real diva.
Like, I look like I'm being a twat.
Yeah.
So we do the first bit up there.
Okay.
And then everyone goes downstairs, not just downstairs into the dining room, not just downstairs to where the ceremony was outside, downstairs into the wine cellar where they have a club room.
Nice.
And we've got to move all the stuff from the top down the stairs through the building. It's like a castle, so it's like spiral staircases and stuff to the basement room.
Yeah.
So that was a fun setup.
Yeah, that sounds a nightmare.
The Portugal one was a dream, an absolute dream. From doing it a few times, it makes it really easy to figure out what you actually need and how to communicate that well. Yeah. I've got a tech spec that I just send over.
Nice.
I say, I normally use this to play my gigs live. Yep. Here's the things that I can bring. Here's the things that I need you to sort out.
Okay.
So I turned up on the day of. I was playing after the ceremony during the drinks reception. Yeah. Then sitting down having a meal with them, and then playing just after the first dance. They actually had a couple of first dances because it was like dad-daughter dance and stuff.
Nice.
And for about an hour until they went into the big villa to have like a kind of clubby thing until everyone ended up going out into Albufeira, I think. But so I turn up mid-afternoon. Yeah. Sorry, I turn up in the morning because they wanted to do a sound check because they couldn't really do a sound check while everyone's there and there's a ceremony going on 100%. And stuff. And there's 2 lads from a production company who are setting stuff up and they are so sound. But I don't know I think that they must deal with every level of experienced musician, right? So from people who aren't experienced or they're set up, they just turn up with a mic and a backing track or whatever it is. They don't necessarily set up their own equipment elsewhere. To people who probably do touring and stuff. Know all of it. But I think they saw me and were surprised that I necessarily like kind of knew how to run my own sound.
100%.
And it's actually, you win people over really quickly at that point. Because they're expecting one thing and used to that, and then you go like, they're like, oh, do you need power for your pedals? I'm like, no, I use rechargeable everything. They're like,
I've got a power bank.
solar powered.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Portugal, so solar powered speakers for a bit.
I heard an interesting story about one of your international weddings.
You heard an interesting story of who? I'm nervous.
Well, can't be named, I'm afraid. Okay. But
am I being outed here? This is a good way to round off the first section. Let's turn the incriminating evidence my way. Go on.
I heard in this particular place in France that you played, where you stayed in a said tree house.
Oh yeah,
with said person who told me this story.
BT lad.
Yeah, and he was telling me about the strange circumstances that it was like pouring with rain, like literally bucketing down with rain, and then somehow just the weather changed, and this is just something to do with you somehow, where you're just so lucky with weather, and I don't know how you do it. Honestly, like every Claremont gig, bar a couple, even when it's bad weather, it's still warmish. Like it's still okay, and I don't know how you did it. He said that they literally, it was a complete washout. It was like pouring down.
Okay, so the France one,
yeah.
So they were a beautiful chateau in northern France, near where the bride's family were from.
Yeah.
And they're on the grass outside. They've got a marquee tent set up for the ceremony with a few hay bales and stuff. Because it's a chateau, but it's also like a working kind of farm and teaching place and stuff. So it's a cool place. So they got the ceremony stuff set up. Half an hour before the ceremony, it is biblically pissing down.
He said,
and everyone sits down for the ceremony. I'm running just a playlist, like basically timing songs for when people come out. So, or the bridal party have a particular song that they come out to, but they're also in the house, which is like, I don't know, 200 yards away. So like, actually, you start playing the song when you see the first person, and everyone's like, and it takes them 2.5 minutes to get into the tent, and the song's nearly finished. I'm having to repeat it, trying to skip back to the bridge to go into another chorus or something. And then the bride comes out. I can't remember if it was still. I think it was still raining when the bride came out. I think she came out with a brolly above her head.
Right. Okay.
Which is not necessarily the aisle walk that you want, but when you got into the tent, you were fine.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But there were also chickens. And nice. I'm so ADHD. I can't keep a straight story. I just remembered that there was chickens that walked down the aisles and started clucking when they said "I do." They said,
"Really?"
Yeah. It was really funny, really cute.
Like moment. Trained to do that, or
no? That's an additional extra 500 quid.
Well, I mean,
the clucking chickens.
It's ironic that they did it at that point.
It was perfect. It was just perfect.
I've seen a video online of couple getting married, and when they say, like, is anyone who sort of what is it they say, like somebody
any objections
to the wedding, and then they're on a farm, and when he says, is there any objections, all these cows at once just and like everyone starts laughing. Like, imagine that happening. That'd be so like crazy.
It's terrible.
Like,
yeah. So as far as I remember this story, it might have been slightly romanticized. I was then playing after the ceremony. While people having drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as I started playing, it just went like beautiful. Like clouds splitting, beautiful.
Unbelievable.
Everyone started singing along in like outside together, spilling out, having all the drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
And it does, I don't know.
Sounds nice.
The Claremont ones are a little bit random. I mean, obviously you can't control the weather. We try and do it in the summer months, so there's a chance of at least being warm. If it's not going to be dry, we're doing a half indoor outdoor event in the UK in the northwest during the summer. And I mean, last summer, June, kind of rained every single day. So we know we're rolling a dice in a certain way from having the event outside, but there is that understanding of it. If you went and saw a gig in the park, or we went to Big Weekend. It rained at Big Weekend. I'm not saying I'm putting on Big Weekend, but you have an understanding.
100%.
If you know what the space is that you're going to, that if it rains, that you might get wet.
Yeah, 100%.
And with that understanding, and with people just being game for the party at Claremont,
sometimes it's cool. Like
it's funny, like seeing everyone with the brollies and like people were dancing with the brollies and stuff.
I see it. And like
it's like defiance against the odds, isn't it? You can try and piss on my parade, but I'm still going to be having a party.
I think once you've had a couple of drinks and the music's going, like with the rain, it's
kind of funny.
It kind of you're in it, you're in the moment, and then you wake up the next day with a cold, and you're like, oh, but like when you
and I'm hugging people at the end, and everyone's soaking wet.
Oh, I know, it's crazy, but
we do seem to get insanely lucky. Like I think the one at the start of May, 2 days before, was saying it was going to like buck it down.
Yeah.
And then it was
such a nice day. That it was unbelievable. I think the key is one more tune branded umbrellas for sale. And if it doesn't rain, we'll just get like someone's window with a hose on the thing, just like
to add the rain. Actually, we're now going to try and add rain.
Add the rain, yeah.
The one of the worst ones that still, I don't know, somehow worked out fine was the Love Ukraine one I did a few years ago. I'm not sure we'd necessarily started connecting properly by that point.
Probably
not.
But
I don't remember that. With Claremont, we did a fundraiser for Ukrainian refugees after the Russian invasion. That summer, we did one event in the field with a big stage.
Yeah.
And we raised a good amount of money.
Oh, that's right.
And this is the one Carlos
Swindo was talking to me about this, and I was like, what? And he said, like, they got a proper big stage in, and I was like, did they? I've never heard of this. And honestly, he was a bit drunk, so I thought he was making it up, but that makes sense now.
We had a similar kind of idea of a lineup of a few musicians, and I was like the last on. Mm-hmm. And Carlos was playing, and everyone was sort of like sat in the field in chairs or stood up at the front, kind of mingling and that. And the heavens just completely opened, like raining coming upwards. Right. It was that bad.
Yeah.
The heaviest rain I think I've seen in, I don't know, a long time.
I mean, Carlos was playing last week when it rained.
I know,
maybe Carlos is the problem.
Aquaman.
Yeah, I think so. I think what it is, because he's from Spain and it's always sunny there, every time he plays in the UK,
he's got to have the contrast of what my home life I'm missing. Yeah. But Carlos is actually quite well versed now, and the reason that he played a song that he played last week, when it was raining, is because it was a hark back to the Love Ukraine event when it pissed down, and it's a charity gig.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I'm trying to be like, keeping the atmosphere up and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a chance that people just go, "Oh, sod this, we're going home. This is all like it's so wet. Everyone's so wet, like sitting out in a field in the driving rain." And Carlos just goes, "I can see clearly now, the rain has gone." And we're just like, unprompted, Carlos, like, wrapped the mood up and went, I know this is bad, but let's try and make it
Think
funny.
about it this way. Ukraine, right? Go with me on this. UK rain.
Brilliant. And I think that is a perfectly terrible place to end. I'm going to leave it for 3 seconds.
Also, it's the only time Carlos has ever got the crowd wet, to be honest.
No, that's how you end a section.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, Carlos.
Hey guys, hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. Please remember to go and follow us online, TikTok, Instagram, all those places. Like and comment on this. You can book us for any private parties, events, weddings, whatever it is. Drop us a message on our socials. Come see us live. We're playing every weekend around the Northwest. Let's get back into the episode.
Hello.
Okay, we are back. First half was quite tech.
It was. Can we just reference the elephant in the room before we go on?
What about you saying that Carlos doesn't make everyone wet?
This mug that you gave. I just want to point out this isn't my usual, Piglet isn't my usual first choice for mugs. But unfortunately, this is what I've been given, so it's fine. I'm sure there's not going to be any screenshots to take the mick out of me taken from this at all. It'll be fine.
When you haven't got power to do a wedding in a field, so you use your power bank, but that's none of my business.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, bit tech heavy. Ended up slamming Carlos, which I'm sure he's going to love because he's definitely going to listen to all of these episodes, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Number one fan. He's our biggest subscriber on Only Patreons.
Only Patreons.
Yeah.
Only Patreons. So I wanted to carry on a little bit talking about weddings and stuff, and
100%.
give a little bit of a nice story from when I first started doing weddings and how I kind of got into it.
Yeah, okay.
And it might not be the story you expect. I think I might have given you some of this context before, but I'll try and explain it as clearly as I can for everyone else.
Okay.
I started doing weddings properly working for an agency.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm not going to name any stuff because it was an interesting thing, and I'm sure actually within the industry this is how a lot of it works. Yep. But it was quite shocking to me what the setup was. I think they did everything they could on their end, but I think fundamentally I had an issue with the concept.
Yep.
I worked for them for maybe a couple of years.
Okay.
Did, I don't know, maybe 20 weddings, 10 weddings first year, 10 weddings second year, something like that.
In a couple of years, you only did 20 weddings with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll become obvious why I didn't say yes to every single
I was gonna
thing
say
that was offered. Someone saw me play in Smuggler's Cove, I think, and think they were like doing sort of like artist recruitment for this agency.
Back when you were a pirate, yeah.
Me and John Rutham singing sea shanties in Smuggler's Cove on the Albert Dock.
Well, I love that part so much. So cool.
So I went and did an audition, which was an interesting thing because they just hired a rehearsal room in like Crash Studios or something. And I basically had to go and play my full gig level performance to a room of...
A full gig?
No.
I was going to say.
Full intensity of performance of playing like a Friday, Saturday night.
Oh, it's hard.
But in a rehearsal room and be like,
atmosphere,
here we go. Ding, 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 you know, like cringe. Really cringe. Never met these guys before, only been texting them. They liked me. I got on well with them. They got us in.
Okay. Right.
There are still some videos of this online.
Yeah, I've seen them.
From... when we did like promo shoots and stuff. But the way that the weddings were set up is that I had speaker equipment and stuff and lighting rig and that, and I was lead singer, electric guitarist, which actually kind of meant both rhythm and lead guitarist because often there'd be like a 3-piece band that went out.
Okay.
So I'd be the sort of band leader for all these gigs.
Right.
The money was a little bit more, not much more, and petty wasn't included.
Okay.
And I think there was an expectation of saying yes to stuff within a 3-hour radius.
When we're saying not much more...
I think I was getting...
Like from not much more from a pub gig, you mean?
Not much more than the rest of the band, but also not much more than a pub gig. To be the band leader for it. And what you had to do was coordinate with the musicians you were playing with, the set list, and there was quite a lot of backing tracks and stuff.
Okay.
What I hadn't realised is that the musicians that you'd go and play the weddings with, this is not a practice that I necessarily sign off on anymore, is that you might never have met the other musicians before you turned up at the wedding.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
So... preface it right. I know within the industry that depping is quite a big thing, and it's quite a way that a lot of people make, a decent chunk of their living, and being gig ready and ready to play a standard party set list, and it happens, right?
Okay,
that's fine.
Yeah.
They were selling the wedding band based off of promo videos, and if you booked the video, if you booked the band from seeing the video, and you like saw the lead singer. And it could have been one of 5 lead singers and a different drummer.
That's not.
And a different this. And they had their roster, but then the roster might not still have filled it up. So it could have been any random dep. So I did 20 weddings and I only played with the same bassist at 2 of them. And everyone else was a stranger every single time.
That's insane.
And I
did anyone complain?
Not when I was band leading. So within my scope, we did what we needed to do, had good responses.
Okay.
I know there were complaints about some other people because I think some of the deps would come in and just not be up to it. But can you imagine turning up on your wedding
I would
day
ask for all my money back,
and you've booked this band and you've shown everyone, and then like some dude turns up and he's like, yeah, no, that's me. Yeah. Or like for me, in front of guests and the bride and groom and stuff, you got to pretend like you know these people. So I'd meet the drummer, and the drummer would be like some 50-year-old dude playing the drums for forever. And it obviously looked like maybe necessarily that wasn't the most obvious band that we would put together.
Yeah.
You know, you'd guess that maybe it'd be people all the same age or something, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd be like, first time meeting this guy, I'd be like, oh, you're right, Dave, how's the kids and stuff? Like,
oh, jeez.
I don't do this anymore. This was my kind of like first foray into.
That's insane. That is insane. It's like, oh, we've booked to go and see, you know,
Harry Potter, and then like, I don't know, just some kid off the streets like doing magic tricks and that.
That's insane. Oh, going to the Coldplay gig tonight with Chris Martinez, you know. That's insane, man. I can't believe that.
So I wonder how much of a thing that actually is within the industry.
No, it's big because I have a similar situation, not that bad, nowhere near, but when I went to play in Italy, you know, obviously I played with Ben from Shaker Maker, who are a great band. They do weddings all the time. He's really good, Ben, really professional, and but he said that they had a few people and ahhing, which I don't think he does anymore. It was just like, I don't know, so I don't want to say too much because I don't know what the actual situation was.
Yeah, he said that stuff like this does happen in the industry.
Essentially, yeah, like I think he had a bit of time where one of his band members was ill. He is now back to normal.
And I think depping is...
But he even had complaints about, like, essentially, like, a guitarist or bass player, like, being different. Not even a lead singer. The lead singer is insane. I can't believe that. But, like, because that's what you're looking at the pro. That's who you listen to. It's whose voice you're hearing. Like, that's insane. But I know that people sort of had a bit of a moan. They were okay, but they did have a bit of a moan about even that. So I can't even imagine what people must have... being like, you know, if it's your wedding, you want what you're paying for. You want what you see. You want everything. You know, you spend a lot of time and energy perfectly crafting this day for yourself.
Yeah.
Of a perfect day of what you want.
I think the one thing that there's two slight like question marks around the whole thing that I had, and one of them I think is probably assuaged by how they did their promo, because the promo videos were sort of like 5 minutes of 5 different songs, like a minute of each song.
Okay.
And it would fade in between different lineups of the band.
Okay.
So they had basically like brand bands. They had a band that was kind of like Mumford and Sons, and then they had a band that was kind of like a disco band. And each one of the promo videos would have the sort of makeup of their roster of musicians, right? Okay. So it's like, this is the squad.
Okay.
Not the team that you get. This is the squad or the pool of musicians.
Yeah.
So I think...
It's kind of like playing the lottery, though, isn't it? Like, of who you're going to get. And
I think because they did their promo in that way, they're excused maybe... some churn.
Could people potentially have said, I want this one? Or not?
I don't know how they did it behind the scenes. They kind of offered the gigs out. There's so much rumbling in this building. So I'm trying to figure out if it's the wind or not. Apologies if you can hear the ceiling falling in.
I can see the over there, the person's blinds is going absolutely crazy.
Okay, yeah, should be the wind.
It's got to win.
But yeah, I mean, and I think the one thing that I couldn't abide by was maybe when that roster fell out of the pool of people and the musicians turning up might never have met each other before.
See, that's insane, because a main part of being a function band is chemistry as well, and, you know...
Being really tight. Yeah. So a lot of it was to backing tracks, but actually that gives you so many more opportunities to fail than one person going to a different section early and everyone being able to flip and change quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, if the singer starts the verse late, you just do another round of the chords.
Yeah.
But if it's on a click, You then start late. You move section. The singer's still singing the last section. So what happened a lot of the time was we never used the backing tracks. We just played. But again, for me, because I've been playing solo so much, or in a duo where me and John had learned the little mashups, or where we drop a bridge or something. Like if I'm playing live, you will never hear me play a bridge unless it's maybe Share Believe, because that's like a well-known bridge. But even second verses, I'm so ADHD when it comes to playing tunes. I'm literally like skipping the iPod in the car all the time. But that's because I feel on a gig where you are having to pump it, even the little dip in energy around going out of a chorus into another verse sometimes makes me feel like no one cares anymore. 100%. It's all dipped. It's all dropped. So 100%. It's just choruses for an hour.
Literally,
But if you're doing that to a click or with people you haven't played before, there's no understanding of how you play any of those songs.
There's that sort of, which I'm not sure I potentially agree with, but there's that well-known thing in like songwriting, isn't there, of like don't bore us, get to the chorus. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure that
it's good for as a musician. No, it's not good for art, but it's good for attention span.
100%. And I think most songs, especially with the advent of TikTok and various other things, I think most music now is just how quickly can we hit them with the dopamine hit.
Yeah, and actually a lot of verses are now kind of like stylized choruses and stuff.
Loads of places now, loads of songs now actually start with the chorus.
Yeah.
Like, or at least a chorus melody or something,
But yeah, our sets are perfectly tailored for the attention deficit generation.
Interesting. I do have something. So yesterday I had someone inquire about corporate gig. I was just telling you about this before. And they said, could you explain in your own words? They didn't say it like in this tone.
Like a job interview.
No. Like your
strengths and weaknesses.
She didn't say it like this. I'm just summarising. She was very colloquial about it.
Okay.
But anyway, she said basically like I've had a look on your Instagram and your Instagram looks amazing, but I'm not really sure what type of music you play. She was like, I can see that you have everyone dancing and singing and it's great, but I'm not really. She was like, she said, I'm sure you'd be able to tell me better. Just like
party bangers, right?
She was like, what actually, like,
how
could
you describe
it? And I was like, I can't describe. I don't know. I was like, because I literally sent a message back. I was like, look, I can pretty much play to anyone. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I've played from funerals to,
first birthday, christening.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I've played to every demographic at this point, and I've got a set list for every demographic. No matter what you throw at me, I'm probably gonna.
The main skill that we've both worked on is the reading the room skill.
Yeah, 100%.
And that is like I think that's just something that. I don't know if you can consciously do it. I think you just... it comes with repetition and doing it over time.
But I think, like, when they ask that obviously means that they're, like, thinking when they book you, like, oh, they have a certain set and that's it, and it doesn't change. Like, we're booking this certain set. And it's like, they, like... I don't know, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's when if people ask for a sample set list, I'm very hesitant. I'll send them a skeleton and be like, it's something like this.
Yeah.
But guarantee you it is going to be completely different on the day.
Yeah.
It's in this wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And it has this sort of like
vibe
differential between genres or decades. It will have some 80s, it will have some 2010s, whatever.
Yep.
But I actually think that's one of the things that kind of separates you apart. Like
100%.
Your ability to flex to any gig.
I've played with people who've showed up with like... I mean, to be fair, a couple of people I play that I know that are really good. My mate Toby does this, which I was laughing at him for the other day, but he like shows up to the gigs with this like laminated A4 of his set list in order, right? And the thing is, you think, but there's a reason why he does it, which fair play to him, is because he's very much more than me, very heavily into the loop and stuff. So it's like he has to have them in a certain order for it to all work, which that makes sense. But like,
but you could memorize that. Like I could play my set as I kind of think of it as the bass version without looking at a lyric.
I never play any gig the same anymore. I used to. And somebody said something that changed my life. No, not really. But they changed like my outlook on this was was an old manager in Macauley's in Liverpool basically said to me one day when I was much younger, this was probably before I even used a stomp, and they said to me, they went, are you going to change up the order of your songs and your set list a bit? And I was like, oh, but like it always works, like it's got people dancing. Went, no, I know that. He said, but I know you set that well. He was like, I could just put that playlist on Spotify now and have people dancing.
I understand, like, but not the same.
Yeah. No, but even though I don't agree, however, what I will say is it did flip a switch, and I was like, I get kind of what he means. Like,
you have to burn stuff. You have to. There has to be some kind of song churn.
Yeah, like
it dies. I'm still so conscious because I've got some of my probably some mashups and stuff that I will always play because they'll always go off until they're obviously like not cool anymore.
Yeah.
But people who've seen me live a few times. Know my changes now.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Which is, of course you do, because you could see it from the other side. But when people are anticipating what I'm about to mash up into before I've even got there, I can see people mouthing the next thing that's a different song, and I'm just
that's cool, though, isn't it? Like, that they know you.
Yeah, but then I'm like,
your trademark thing. Like, you come up with that mashup, and then people know it. It's kind of cool.
But it just makes me feel really dirty, like. I know it's a good thing, but it also makes me go. It gets that little voice in my head saying you need new songs.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just so hard when you found something that works. You've got a wheelhouse of 50 songs that work.
That She Is a Belter, Jerry Cinnamon, Into Share Believe thing, that is going to exist forever now. Yeah. Like, forever, because everybody plays those songs together, and I think that's just going to be a thing now for the rest of the time, to be honest. Which I hate because I'm so bored of playing that mashup now, but it always breathes new life into the set and people are always up for it dancing. Yeah,
there are some cheat codes. My cheat code for any age, any generation, and I will play this song. This used to be my finisher, still can be my finisher. Can't take my eyes off you. The greatest song ever written by anyone ever.
You started with it at Claremont last week?
Well, I've only got an hour, so it's a power hour.
Yeah.
And I want to smooth in, and then that's what I normally.
However, you definitely play an abridged version of that song because it's like you basically skip half the song, and I'm like, hang on, because you just really quickly go into the do bit.
If you've got a crowd of people in front of you, how long can you tail them off by doing slow start?
I just milk it.
And then slow
just
start.
When they think you're about to go into
slow
it,
start.
I just go back into the...
No, it's not how you work a crowd, is it? You go, oh, you know this song, don't you? Okay, let's go. Let's have it.
Yeah, okay.
You're in safe hands, you know this song, now let's party. That's what I do a lot for the wedding one. So if I'm doing a first dance...
Okay.
Something like Can't Take My Eyes Off You as the first song after the first dance, because it's such a nice way to do things.
It is.
If you are a musician, steal this trick, right?
Yeah.
If you're setting up to sing straight after the first dance, nice and easy, start something slow that's like a first dance, but they can then go into something bouncing. So Can't Take My Eyes Off You is a perfect example where it starts really slow, everyone's like da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Because we've just had a first dance, it's not a big jerk into the wrong direction, but within that song, you can then go da-da-da-da, and everyone knows it and they go off.
Yeah. 100%.
And if you've got everyone for the first dance crowding round, get them in halfway through the first dance. First dance finishes, you already got a full dance floor and you play that song and it goes off.
Yeah. Another little tip that I've seen from your set as well lately is this whole singing thing and splitting the crowd.
Oh, I'm really enjoying that
because I've only seen one other person ever do this and they were famous. So I'm
turning into Freddie Mercury was it Live Aid?
Yeah. As I say, it is so impressive. But the thing is,
oh, thank you, Connor.
You need
it's so stupid and simple as well.
You need a crowd though that's
really in your palm.
I can imagine that you could very quickly fall flat on your face.
That's why if I ever play 500 miles and people don't go back to me, I die.
To explain what I'm talking about, obviously, is that when you do your final song and whatever, and you play Hey Jude, you know that song no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Obviously, what you do is essentially, and we did it together as a duo, and then you do it as well on your own, is like split the crowd down the middle. And basically, like, the left-hand side of the crowd sings Hey Jude, like the na-na-na bit. The right-hand side is singing Elbow, Throw Those Curtains Wide, you know, that song.
Because they're the same chords.
They're the same chords.
I get the crowd to do a mashup.
Yeah, so he's like a B-Tech Jacob Collier.
Yeah.
And he's basically like, he's sort of, you know, doing this thing. And I will say that when I was filming last week and I was stood in, must have been the sonic sweet spot of the entire place, it was perfectly balanced. And it was one of those, like, wow, like, goosebumps, kind of like, this is actually crazy. Because they were all singing it in tune and everything. I was like, wow, this is
And it actually
insane.
gets to the point where everyone's holding it down well enough.
Yeah.
My favourite thing, I take my guitar off.
Yeah, because I remember you stopped.
I don't play
and
anymore.
They were
I just
still
let it carry
singing,
on.
And I was like, I have never seen this other than in stadiums or arenas or whatever.
And
I was like,
it's a 200-person gig at the local farm
that is
just
insane.
Goes off. Mate.
But like I say, what I'd be interested to know is, could you pull that off at, like,
in town with drunk people?
You know, in a public gig, like, or whatever. Because if you could, then oh my god,
you could with private parties. You could with weddings. Yeah. I've done it with weddings.
You have more command over the crowd at private gigs.
But I think it's a judgment call based on whether you've really got the crowd with you. I think for like an OBK gig, if it's absolutely bouncing, everyone who's with you at that front bit, I could probably work with that.
Well, this brings me nicely onto this thing that I want to speak to you about, which is,
nice 5-minute question and answer to round us off.
So, talking in your set of gigs, right?
Right.
We play pretty dun-dun, like, the whole way through. We don't really stop, right? Mm-hmm. Now, some people like that, some people don't, right? The thing is that there's people on the very opposite end of the spectrum. For example, John Wynn, he's great at what he does.
He's all about crowd engagement.
100. But he's the polar opposite to us. We're just straight in music the whole sort of set. He's very much talks to the crowd. He gets them involved. He's great, right?
Gets people up dancing to do dance-offs, like deliberate.
Literally, yeah. As I say, unbelievable. So my question is, like, obviously, you go to see some big bands and stuff, and they do a bit of a mix of the two. They have these bits where they talk. So with you, obviously, we play right the way through the set. What do you consciously, as a sort of musician or whatever, how often do you talk to the crowd in your set? How often, and when you do, what do you say? Like, what you know, because I don't really, if I'm being honest, and this is probably detrimental to me, because a lot of people tell me, like, you know, even my parents who've been to watch me a couple of times, they like my, you know, one of them greatest support, but also biggest critic. And the one thing that they say is, like, you don't talk to the crowd. Like, if you engaged, you would draw them in a lot more, you know. So I need to work on saying more stuff. A
little bit gig specific, quieter gigs that you have. There's probably more need to chat a little, win people over a little. I think for the gigs when you can just go power hour, talking kills it. Unless it's the stupid DJ things of let me hear you 1, 2, 3, 4, all that kind of stuff. That we do when the gig's popping off. I actually think talking in those circumstances when you can let the music do all of that for you. Alternatively, I also am conscious that you can work it to make it a bit more. You know, if you're chatting and stuff, you can be personable, all that. You can show, like, your personality. But I also am so in a mode in my head and putting on an act and wearing a certain hat. Not this one, but...
We're both wearing hats today.
I know.
It's weird.
But, like, in my head, it's part of my performance. I'm doing my Harry James thing. I don't know if, like, my actual personality on any day, Tuesday afternoon... if I'm, like, actually as extroverted as it might appear if you're in the middle of a crowd singing 100%. And people are singing along with you. It looks complete. You go, that person likes being in a crowded room. I actually don't. I actually don't. Like, socially, I don't think I'm particularly extroverted at all. I'm very comfortable with the people I'm comfortable with. But like talking to strangers and stuff, I'm always like thinking that I'm making myself seem like an idiot or whatever.
That makes sense.
So I think when blend between the two and start to chat, would be making me feel way more vulnerable than if I was just banging out tunes.
So do you say, like, obviously when you first start, like, hey, I'm Harry James.
I've got set lines.
Right, okay.
If you've seen me play before.
I've got a script.
I've just got the same kind of thing to...
Okay.
What do I normally say? Good evening, everyone. My name's Harry James. Going to play some tunes for you. Going to do some old stuff. Going to do some new stuff. Do some mashups. Try and keep you on your toes.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
A variation of
that. And then at the end, are you saying, like, make sure you follow me on... Like, because people say that, but I don't know whether that's cringe. I don't know.
Again, gig specific. If it's gone off, then Try and get them chanting one more tune. We don't say one more song.
Yeah. Everyone says one more song.
I know, yeah. But it's good. It's a nice moment to kind of like engage with it and correct it and
100%.
Then get the stomp behind it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think there's always quite a natural sort of like big ending to things and stuff. And I don't really think, again, it's kind of like, make sure you follow me. I always say, for the Claremont one, to say buy tickets to the next one or whatever.
Yeah. My problem is that I finish on most of the time country roads. There's a very specific reason, because you've seen the way that I do the end. And I keep getting quicker and quicker and quicker until they cannot keep up with the dance anymore. And they're like, and then it goes boom, and it finishes, and it's great, and everyone loves it.
And the fireworks go off, your lights behind you explode, set on fire.
Exactly. And the problem is, I then feel cringe then going back to the mic and going, oh, by the way, follow me on Instagram. No, like...
I do say get home safe, if it's been a... event or something.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but for me, that big boom at the end is like...
Your end.
That's done. Yeah. So it's like, where
you need
do you
someone
find
else to be like,
these...
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That was from side stage. You need to be able to hit a trigger thing that's like some compare, like talking you off stage.
Gotta put a thing in my SPD that I can just stamp on at the end, and it's like, thanks for watching.
You've been listening to Connor Farrell.
But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I'm toying with this over the next week. I'm going to toy with this idea of trying to find these set bits to talk, because I want to
you'll just land on something that's short and comfortable.
I want to talk, and I want to be able to let people know who I am, because people don't necessarily see the QR code and whatever, and I want them to follow me.
Yeah, it's a better marketing.
But I've also seen people that are just like, every 3 songs, this is my name, follow me, and it seems a bit like you're begging for...
I think if you're in the middle of town and your crowd could change every 15 minutes, it could be full, but it's a different group of full every 15 minutes. I think that's more okay to say your name that often, because it's people coming and going quite a lot.
Okay.
But when it's one group of people, if you're doing it every 15 minutes, it's taking the piss.
Do you remember Chico?
It's Chico time.
Right, yeah. So I seen Chico. No, I didn't pay.
Okay, this has got to be the last story.
Okay. I seen Chico in Butlins.
Yeah, what a gig, man.
And
peak British existence.
This was the most hilarious thing ever. So this was like not too long after he was off the TV and stuff. And he did this show in Butlins. And obviously me and my dad, very musical people and stuff. My dad.
I thought you were going to say me and my dad, massive Chico.
No, he was just on. We were in the bar and he was on.
Okay.
We were on like a family holiday. Obviously, I've got a younger brother and sister. We were in Butlins. Anyway, he was on stage, and basically me and my dad obviously both grew up around performances and stuff, whatever. My dad's been in bands, whatever. So we're both musicians, and we're watching Chico on stage, and every 2 songs, and this isn't a lie or an exaggeration, every 2 songs, he stopped the music and he was like, thanks guys, like, please don't forget to like go over to the merch stand and buy this stuff. But it was like he was playing to the same people the whole night, and every 2 songs he was like, buy a water bottle, buy this, like buy this. And it was like, we got to the point where we were like, we knew it was coming after the second song. Like, this is ridiculous. I've never heard somebody try to sell merch so just like openly, just like, buy this, because he probably made more money from the merch than he was getting for the gig. So he was just trying to upsell everyone, like, buy this, but it got so cringy that I think like we laughed about it the whole night, and I think
you're just anticipating at the end of a song, is he going to do it now? Yeah, get a
so
t-shirt,
I definitely never want to do that, and that's why I've steered away from being overly promoting myself.
Yeah, well, that's what I had to do with the band. Like when I was in Hollowbody and stuff, selling t-shirts, like, you got to play the game. I think with the original music stuff, there's so much more about like the finance is just so messed up. 100%. Like the money you get for gigging versus what you'd need to
100%. Well, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
So
that'll be next time.
What have you got on this week, quickly?
Black Lodge Craft Beer Expo. This will probably come out way later than that. So I had a lovely time on the 30th and 31st of May at Craft.
Well, you don't know yet. It could be
beer.
a disaster.
No, it will be good. It's always good.
It's
always good. Tunes are good.
I've got not that many on. I'm just... I'm covering for you in Caldy, and I've got a few others that I can't remember. I can never remember where I'm playing unless I look at my diary. But I know I've only got a few gigs this week.
You said you got one in Rill.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
I know his diary better than him.
Literally, I'm playing in Rill tomorrow. Really good gig, really good bar. It's called the Ellis Vault. See, I remember that.
Hey,
it's really nice. And then I'm playing for you in Caldy on Saturday. Saturday Eve, I'm playing a late one, like
you in town?
9:30. No town anymore. Only on a Tuesday. That's it. I'm taking no other town gigs except for on a Tuesday in Eric's, which is my
afternoon
reoccurring public gig for anyone that wants to come and watch me in the public. Other than that, I'm done with it. So
it's done with you, mate.
It's done with me. I can't. They won't take me in anywhere else.
Yeah.
No. But
where's that one?
That's in Warrington.
Convincing. Buy your Chico t-shirts online at chico.com/store, but use One More Tune 20% at checkout to get a discount on your Chico t-shirts.
Oh, yeah, we'll collab with Chico.
Yeah, Sam. We'll get him on the next pod. It's Chico Down.